I modified the Hieronymus instrument, and I eventually developed what I considered a souped-up version, a very powerful scalar energy instrument.
Hmm.
And in so doing, it's very easy now to control scalar energy, to control it and direct it with these amplified scalar energy instruments. And long and short of it is, I enter into a different dimension with these instruments. It's no longer Newtonian physics. It's not electromagnetic. The dimension that I'm in is a scalar energy dimension, which is a dimension of information, of infinite information. And in so doing, I can achieve in a scalar energy dimension what I cannot readily achieve in an electromagnetic dimension.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are watching or listening. This is the Holistic Monitor, and I'm your host, Nick Sconia. The Holistic Monitor is a wellness podcast featuring life energy research, health and wellness transformation, self-improvement and empowerment, philosophy, spirituality, and now guest interviews as well. We look forward to your comments on our YouTube channel at Holistic Monitor, and you can also listen on the go with us at Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. And with that, let's get today's show started. Tom Paladino.
Yes.
You are the founder of Scalar Light.com, and your research into light energy and is partially drawn from Nikola Tesla's research as well. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Did I say scalar correctly? Or is
That's
it scalar?
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Sir.
And what exactly is scalar?
It's the energy of the cosmos. It's the energy that animates the sun and the stars. I believe it's the initial energy of the universe, whereas electricity and magnetism is a subset or derivative of scalar energy. And how do I prove that? Well, the sun and the stars always give off heat, light. Scalar energy does not experience entropy. So this is the energy that must drive the sun and the stars. Scalar energy has to be that animating force because something has to animate the stars. It can't be electricity. Electricity experiences entropy.
Yeah. So electricity has the beginning and an end, has
Exactly.
a pulse, right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
And so physical light would also have that same pulse, the heat.
Yes, precisely.
So would scalar then be like a unifying energy, a template for everything else to work around or on?
Yes, it's the unifying field. Yes.
The unifying field. Okay.
Nikola Tesla knew that. Go on.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of discussion about that, and of course a search for that. What were you able to find out in your research?
Tesla began his career with AC, electricity. He ended it with scalar energy, what he called radiant energy, meaning what? He discovered the life force energy of the universe. He always wanted to find the kinetic energy that powered the universe. Later in his life, he was developing free energy devices. He had one in a tower in Long Island, New York. That was a scalar energy tower. Tesla developed scalar energy, free energy devices. He was the first.
Yeah, he was tapping into his own reservoirs of knowledge to tap into this energy.
Yes.
I think that was the Wardenclyffe Tower. Is that right? Is that the New York one?
Yeah, that's correct. If you look closely at photographs of that tower, it's simply a tower that collects energy. There's no power plant around. There's not even wires leading into or out of the tower. So if it was a tower for energy, it had to be a wireless energy source. And the fact that there was no power plant inside the tower, it was what I would say motionless. There were no moving parts, so to speak. Right. Then you probably had to capture the energy from the atmosphere.
Yeah, it was like a harvester.
Exactly.
The money for that was not fulfilled. I think he needed $50,000 more, and it wasn't wasn't brought forth, so it wasn't able to turn on or begin its process. Is that how that worked out?
Yeah, I understand that J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds were financing him because they wanted to exploit his genius. But ultimately, they realized that Tesla was about to give the world free energy. And that would have destroyed their monopolies with oil and gas and copper and the railroads and telecommunications. So uh, J.P. Morgan withheld any financing thereafter.
Yeah, they got the word. They heard the word free, and they were like, "Oh, oh nope, hold on a minute."
Yes.
But I think they did want the patents and the diagrams and whatnot to try and
Sure.
tap. Although they may have just gone to the alternate or direct current method.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's why we still have AC electricity. We don't have free energy
right.
because you can meter, you can control electricity. If there's
Yeah.
free energy from the stars, nobody can control the stars.
Right. And is that energy? Is it from the stars, or is it like drag from the Earth spinning, like
No,
kind of like a static charge or something like that?
no, it's not a static charge. I would have to say that this is from the creator.
Hmm.
How could you power all of the stars? And how
Right.
can the stars essentially be perpetual energy? Stars might have phases, cycles, but they never run out of power. And if you look at the trillions of galaxies that we have, you have to say, what's powering? Where's the power coming from?
Right.
Why are trillions of galaxies with stars? How do you power that? It has to be God.
Yeah. A background force
Yeah,
that
the
is at
first
foot.
cause.
There was another tower that he built in Colorado Springs. I think it was after Wardenclyffe.
Yeah,
It
Colorado
was.
Springs was in 1899. That was his experiment.
Okay.
And it's quite interesting. He enjoyed a cosmopolitan lifestyle in New York City. And then you have to ask yourself, why would he travel out to Colorado Springs at an elevation of 6,000 feet, which was really a ranching town back in 1899? What was he doing?
Hmm.
Well, if you look at the tower in Colorado Springs, there's no electrical wires leading into it. He's up in the Rocky Mountains. There's no power plant in the nearby vicinity. He was able to extract free energy from the Rocky Mountains. That's one of the reasons he was at that altitude.
Hmm.
And he perfected it, and then he went back to sea level, and he was there. He did it. He both towers were functioning scalar energy towers.
Okay. And does that involve the coils?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
In part, yes.
And that's just an ambient way of harvesting background energy, radiant energy,
Exactly.
just
Precise.
spiraling.
Yes, precisely.
And so
Brilliant.
you've enhanced that as well?
I studied Tesla in theory, and I was able to learn from his notes, especially with scalar energy, that it's not electricity. And yes, I use Tesla coils. And the key is you have to develop a scalar wave or some type of, you can call it scalar current or scalar force. It's not electricity. And once you develop that scalar wave, then you can amplify it with the Tesla coils, and scalar energy will automatically broadcast anywhere in the world or the solar system or the galaxy for that matter.
Hmm. So
This
it's
is the
tappable.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can harness it. You can tap into it. And the key is that it is you don't need an infrastructure. The universe is the infrastructure. And this is
Hmm.
what Tesla discovered. He did not need wires. He did not need a substation. He doesn't need satellites.
Right.
The universe, the air, the radiant energy, the ether is the infrastructure. You don't need an expensive infrastructure. Today, we need substations, low
Yeah.
orbiting satellites. We need 5G towers. You need conduit. You need wall sockets. You need step down transformers. It just goes on and on.
Right.
You need induction motors. All of that is obsolete.
Right.
All you have to do is capture the energy. It's already there. It's a free energy with a free infrastructure. That makes obsolete so many industries.
Yeah. definitely. Well, now, from what I remember reading about it, on the Tesla side, that you could turn it on, and then you could put a rod that was, I guess, attuned or of the same frequency, like a tuning fork, into the ground, and then you'd have tapped the main tower or something of that nature. Does that sound accurate?
It does. What Tesla was doing, he was able to copy nature. See, that's the sign of a true inventor. You don't go against nature.
Right.
And Tesla, that tower in Colorado Springs and that tower in Long Island were essentially miniature stars.
Hmm.
He simply was able to tap into that star power, into that infrastructure. Now, doesn't that make so much sense? Instead of building a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure that is inefficient in delivering power, why not afford yourself the free infrastructure that the universe offers?
Yeah. Um, and absolutely, if that's available, right?
Yeah.
uh, would you um, would you say that he lacked a certain marketing sense,
Yeah.
or a
He was a genius.
congeniality with others that kind of maybe caused the friction where he wasn't able to pursue it further
Yeah.
and sell the idea?
Yeah. He wasn't a businessman.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, you have to commercialize this somehow because nobody's going to pay your bills indefinitely. And he made the mistake of trusting J.P. Morgan, who was a devious person.
Yeah.
You don't trust J.P. Morgan or the international bankers.
Right.
And he learned from that. And the lesson is he would have had to have developed a grassroots following. But then he didn't have the internet. So
Right.
his drawback was he trusted the international bankers, and you never trust those people. They're
Right.
they're evil.
But they were the ones with the money, which makes it tough because you need the financing, but they also want to, profit
Yeah.
as a number one goal. So he did all this development. He came up with a lot of structures. The death ray being a controversial one. I don't know if it was ever completed or if it was just in theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had a series of things that were available as other options for people.
You're right. It's a versatile energy, and I've heard reports of a death ray. Who knows if he ever developed that?
Yeah.
What is peculiar is the day he died, the United States government raided his laboratory and took everything.
Yeah.
Notes, inventions, schematics, they took everything. Well, that's rather odd. Why would they do that? What's the point? Obviously, there was intellectual property that the United States government wanted.
Yeah. Under national security, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in utilizing this energy, I've seen it come up in other places, and there's a funny thing with the Tesla car, which is not really, it's the idea of having something that's liberating from gasoline, but that's about all as far as in relation to Nikola Tesla's work. Is this power strong enough, tappable enough to be able to power a vehicle?
Yes. Apparently, Tesla developed a scalar energy car. He tested it in Buffalo, New York. And what he actually did, he took out the combustion engine of the car.
Hmm.
So it had nothing to do with electricity or a fuel source. And he powered it with sunlight, with starlight. He actually affixed an antenna on top of his car.
Hmm.
And he was apparently able to power that car with scalar energy. Now, what is notable, people who saw the car in operation said it was silent in operation, silent. So it wasn't a combustion engine. And there
Right.
was no smoke, there was no exhaust, so there was no burning of fuel. And he most likely developed a free energy car, and we should have listened to him, but that invention is gone. It's gone by
Yeah.
the wayside.
That one's gone. Yeah.
Nobody knows what came of it.
Yeah. That would be probably some of the papers stolen from the apartment.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to ask yourself, well, why has this been so obscured throughout history? And what's the purpose? If you have these great inventions, why this cloak and dagger attitude with so many of his inventions and his work? Well, it's done to keep people, frankly, from realizing that there is another energy source, and this energy source is free, and in operation, it's relatively inexpensive because it's a threat to the military industrial complex. It's that simple.
Right. Powers that be.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah. A control factor, basically.
Yeah,
Energy is control.
exactly.
Now, I've been recently seeing things about the potential that the Great Pyramid was some sort of beacon or transmitter as well, and that obelisks were a means of tapping that resource.
Exactly.
Now, it lacks any kind of coil technology, at least currently. Is this akin to pyramid energy?
It is. It is. Pyramids and obelisks, many of them can harness scalar energy. So many pyramids are in obelisks, even some cathedrals can harness scalar energy. Now, if that was known 1,000, 2,000 years ago, then why aren't we incorporating this? Well, it's a lost science. It's a lost art, frankly. But you're absolutely right. And many people attribute a lot of the phenomenon that goes on inside a pyramid to scalar energy, and that's appropriate. It's not an electromagnetic environment. I've known of people who say that they've seen rodents that have ventured into a pyramid, and that those rodents, although they die lack of food, do not decay at a fast rate. And actually, they're mummified, or their process of chemical decomposition is halted, curtailed. Why? In a scalar energy force field, it's a non-physical presence which will either prevent or curtail chemical decomposition. So this is why many people feel that if you enter into a pyramid, that you can slow down aging or you can slow down chemical decay. Yes, to both. It's a different environment. It's not a Newtonian environment. It's not electromagnetic.
Yeah, it doesn't have that aging spark, as it were.
Exactly. You see, what
Yeah.
I've learned with my work, all of my work is non-physical, and it's not a chemical reaction, it's a light reaction. So the only way I can describe my work, it's more or less like a spiritual work,
Mm-hmm.
or a non-physical energy that does not produce a chemical reaction. It's an informational reaction.
Yeah. Energetic blueprint.
Yes,
Right.
precisely.
And so you have utilized the Tesla technology, the ideas behind what was being tapped. And what kind of background do you have as far as what brought you to this work? And what references do you have as far as learning and all of that?
Sure. I, let's say I was at the university for a good 12, 13, 14 years. And later in my academic career, I was, if you will, concentrating on Tesla research and trying to learn as much as I could about this other science, this other energy. Eventually, in my 30s, I said, I have to do this alone now. I had enough of an academic standing that I had to start researching exclusively for this energy. And I was fortunate enough when I was 30, let's see, 33 years of age, I came across an inventor, Sarah Hieronymus, and her late husband, Galen. Anyway, long story short, when I was 33 years of age, I began my practical approach with scalar energy. This Hieronymus family was working with scalar energy instruments in the United States. And that began my practical application, hands-on application of scalar energy. And that therefrom, I was able to amplify the energy from this inventor, Galen Hieronymus. So fortunate enough, and God put this in my lap, I met the Hieronymus family. Galen Hieronymus was the only researcher who was ever awarded a patent, a U.S. patent, for a scalar energy instrument. And it's never been challenged.
Mm.
The long and short of it is, at one time in his life, Galen Hieronymus, this American inventor, was working with the U.S. government. The government was very keen and very interested in his work. But I think that supranational organization, the international bankers, got involved, and they told the government, "Don't get involved in this. This is free energy." So even Hieronymus was suppressed.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that suppression and disappearance based on different discoveries in, I think it's cold fusion, something like that, other means of propulsion and powering cars. Anything that touches into the oil industry seems to get a little bit wonky, and then also the medical community as well.
Yes.
Anything that dares to stray into the territory of cures and healing and all of that,
Right.
gets the snap. Now you took what they were working on and were able to create something yourself as far as a Scalar Light energy machine.
Yeah, I modified the Hieronymus instrument, and I eventually developed what I considered a souped-up version, a very powerful scalar energy instrument. And in so doing, it's very easy now to control scalar energy, to control it and direct it with these amplified scalar energy instruments. And long and short of it is, I enter into a different dimension with these instruments. It's no longer Newtonian physics. It's not electromagnetic. The dimension that I'm in is a scalar energy dimension, which is a dimension of information, of infinite information. And in so doing, I can achieve in a scalar energy dimension what I cannot readily achieve in an electromagnetic dimension.
Would that be because you are going closer to a source program, if I'm going to use that language, or a source code?
Yes.
So you're getting closer to a more infinite space.
Yes.
So the access to dimensional realities is able to either shift or be enhanced.
Yes, precisely.
Okay.
Scalar energy is consummate control over nature. You have dominion over nature with scalar energy, whereas electricity and magnetism is an indirect control. It's not that masterful control. So what we're able to accomplish today with electricity is wonderful, but that's not the tool you want to use. If you want to control, if you want to mandate nature, you do it with scalar energy. Scalar energy allows you to have dominion over nature.
Yeah, the electrochemical would be on the more physical manifestation, an after effect of the scalar.
Exactly. Whereas I work with non-physical information, which precedes the chemical reaction,
right,
which is the cause of the chemical reaction.
Right. So in doing administering the scalar light, what process do you go through to do that? For, let's say you have somebody come to you that has headaches, for example.
When people approach me, keep in mind I'm working with non-physical energy, and everything has a scalar energy signature or a scalar energy code.
Mm-hmm.
I work with photographs only. Okay. People will email me their photograph, and I place a photograph of a person inside the instrument. Now, to give you an analogy, we're having a conversation by computers. It's a video call. You're obviously not in my office. I'm not in your office, but we can exchange information. Your image and my image will exchange through this video call. Well, I can take a person's image, their photograph, and I can have an interaction on their photograph as you and I are having an interaction through the computer. So what am I getting at? I place a person's photograph inside the instrument, and the instrument will find the energy signature of the person. We work with their force field, not their biological person. And I can find a person's force field through their photograph. I can locate a person's energy field, their force field, by way of a photograph. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Now, to dive into that a little bit, because that's where it starts to get a little etheric for people.
Yeah.
and they want the dots to be connected in some kind of sensical way to their physical understanding. Would that be very similar to the idea of observed reality, that the attention put on something
Yes.
allows it to move or makes it move, or that sort of thing?
Yes, precisely. So,
That'd be a physics phenomenon.
yes. So what you just described was intention or an information system. And my instrument is intention or an information system. So whether you do that by your mind or by a scalar energy instrument, it's still the outcome is still guaranteed. Why? Thinking scalar waves animate the mind. Scalar waves animate my instrument. So whether it's with your mind, which is a scalar vessel, or with my instrument, which is a scalar vessel,
Hmm.
the intention, the information always precedes the outcome. Cause and effect. The cause is scalar information. The outcome is reality.
Mm-hmm. So the question then I would have for the machine
Yes.
is, how do you steer the intent, or is this just a blast? And I say just.
Yeah.
Is this a blast of scalar energy towards the person, and it will go where it needs to go, much like a Reiki? Or what way does the machine, what way do you guide the intent of the scalar energy?
I can do that through prayer, through intention, or there's another method. I can take a photograph of a microbe.
Hmm.
That's a photograph of the Epstein-Barr virus. And if I place this photograph inside the instrument next to my photograph, there's a sharing of information.
Hmm.
So Epstein-Barr is information or intention is shared with my photograph, which is intention. So just like quantum entanglement, you've heard that term, with two disparate objects can communicate with one another instantaneously. I quantum entangle with the energy of the Epstein-Barr virus. The Epstein-Barr virus is transmitted as an energy signal into my body. If I have Epstein-Barr, it will break apart, it will fragment under this operation. I can quantum entangle the energy field of Epstein-Barr into my quantum field, quantum entanglement. I can identify the Epstein-Barr virus in my quantum field and destroy it.
Hmm.
So it's a photograph of a microbe that allows me to seek out, identify, and destroy the microbe.
Hmm.
And it
Okay.
works. It works because there's no human ingenuity and there's no human reasoning involved. I
Right.
work with a source of light, a photograph. My instrument is a broadcast device of light. And when you're working with light, light never makes a mistake.
Right. Right. There's no filter, basically.
Yes, there's no there's
Yeah.
no human reasoning, no human interpretation. It works.
And so, in that same essence of where you would actually do the active prayer or the active movement of intent, does the machine enhance that for you, or if you just let it running without a driving specific intent?
Yes.
I know that it would attach, of course, to the subconscious, so it would already know what to do. But if you did it, let's just say, and had it running with a picture with zero of input from the observer,
Yes.
what has been, I should say, the outcome?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've done that sample to see what would happen with.
I have.
Yeah.
And what the end results is what I call a brain balancing or chakra balancing. So when I'm not inputting a photograph to instruct the instrument, the energy is self-instructing for the brain waves, which are scalar waves, and the chakras or the meridian system, which are composed of scalar energy. So without an input, the instrument will automatically balance the brain waves and the 7 chakras. That's quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It knows what to do. Now, keep in mind, it's self-directed. It's not me. There's no human reasoning here. The energy knows what to do. That's consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that if you know Reiki, or if you know the term and what the breakdown of the Rei and Ki is, it's a universally guided life force.
Yes.
That is done by a practitioner, but the practitioner will swear that it's a pass through, and that it goes where it needs to go and it does what it needs to do. And the practitioner is just there to be the vessel,
Yes,
as clear of filters as possible to allow that Reiki energy to go through. So it sounds a very akin to that.
yes, it is.
Um,
That's brilliant. You're right.
so if you sat in a pyramid, you've maybe seen people in the copper pyramids
Mm-hmm.
or the Merkabas, and you were to just sit there, even with just a meditative, low thought or no thought type of meditation, and just sitting in this space to meditate. I believe this would be my thought: would that same energy would also balance the brain and enhance or
Yes.
spin the chakras
Yes.
and kind of revive the systems just as much as it wouldn't rot fruit or rot, something that was decaying as fast as if it was just left to the open air.
Exactly. I like that experiment. Experiments have been conducted with the fruit. Fruit has been placed inside pyramids, and the fruit does not decay, does not rot that quickly,
Right.
as opposed to fruit outside of a pyramid. Why? Well, the animating force, scalar energy, that's collected by a pyramid slows down the chemical decay, slows down the aging process, call it what you will. And that's why fruit inside a pyramid can last much longer than fruit outside a pyramid.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Now, there's a lot of thought about using that thought there about the pyramids, the Great Pyramid being when it was actually functioning, which was many, many millennia ago, that it had a lot more attributes to it and potentially had other mechanisms in place. Had a capstone, had casing stones. Um, it has harmonics as far as sound goes. The idea behind the pyramid itself is that that energy is already going to preserve. And then you have tales of the grand architect being someone who lived a very, very long time. Could it possibly be that there was some kind of technology that was used in the pyramid that allowed the inhabitants of the pyramid to outlive the people around them, to maybe carry the message or the knowledge forward for many generations versus just a single generation passed word of mouth?
If you look at all the pyramids that have been constructed throughout the world, it's mind boggling. Our modern day construction crews could not have built so many pyramids as what we find in ruins,
Yeah.
and the elaborate construction of these pyramids. I To this day, the pyramids in Cairo, Egypt, no construction company can duplicate.
No.
Nobody.
And
No.
there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the point? They were they were power centers, and in many ways, they're places of their temples. And now it's just a matter: is it a temple for good or a temple for evil? Evil.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many pyramids. It begs the question: what's the point?
Yeah.
That you can't make money off of a pyramid. It doesn't grow your crops necessarily. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of labor. What's the function? What's the purpose?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the power plant was an idea that I saw with the Great Pyramid based on its construction, that it potentially helped to create power. Another one was a great pumping machine to disperse water, make sure there was water to irrigate. There's a lot of ideas, there's not a lot of answers, and probably never will be. That would be lost in an age when, a previous age before this age, before the dynasties, likely.
There's something
Um,
I've learned from the pyramids and Tesla. You
hmm,
want to keep it small scale. Okay.
yeah,
This is small scale. There's no way I could go to Colorado Springs and erect a tower 157 feet high.
right.
I just don't have the money. So
Yeah,
I have to miniaturize everything. And this is my small Tesla laboratory. And I've got to keep it small. I have to learn how to amplify the energy with this small inch. Well, it's 7 feet long, but it's certainly not a pyramid, and it's
right.
certainly not a tower in Colorado Springs. So
Yeah,
that's the key. I've learned from Tesla: don't rely on outside income because it won't come.
right.
You got
It comes with
to
catches.
monetize everything. This is my
Yeah,
reality.
So it would be kind of the idea maybe is to make it more of a home size,
Yeah, thank you.
an
Exactly.
individual size. Now, do you actively work with clients?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We have a program. Anybody in the world can send us photographs, and we are working with people on all 5 continents, and we're very successful. People say that they feel better. That's the key. After people submit their photograph to us, people give us glowing reports. They say, whatever you've done, I feel different. I feel
Hmm.
better. And that's the beginning body of evidence. I want to make this very clear. Nobody has my instruments. Nobody's been able to prove or disprove my work. Okay, with that statement, then I have to prove it through the grapevine. I have to prove it through the grassroots effort.
Yeah.
That's the only proof right now. Um, there is no third party in academia that's an independent party that can prove or disprove my work.
Case studies, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And testimonials.
You're
Um,
right. You're right.
and that's a safe place to be as well, because it
You're,
keeps you out of making declarations on what it is or isn't.
yes,
It allows people that are getting a benefit of well-being
yes.
getting a benefit of well-being. That's great.
Yeah.
Whatever else they get, that's wonderful too. We call it revelation cures, right?
Then that's where the
Yeah.
science is right now, and it's by God's design. Otherwise, I don't want to have to go before academia
Right.
or the government and prove or disprove my work. Well,
Yeah.
because anybody could say, well, there's no you can't substantiate this. Well, not according to Newtonian physics. I cannot.
Right. Right. The current model.
Correct.
Yeah. Accepted model, I should say.
Yeah, correct.
So you're offering something to the listeners.
Yeah.
What do you have on the table?
Again, we're all about performance, and I want people to experience this. So our website offers anybody in the world 15 days of free session. You send us your photograph, just a facial photograph, and we'll balance your chakras. We'll eliminate, eradicate microbes, and we'll assemble nutrients. Uh, that's how I prove this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want to keep it that way, because it's a grassroots movement. And if this has never been done before, it has not, then I have to start from the bottom up, so to speak. So I start with people, and I'm happy to work with people. Go to the website, scalarlight.com. Anybody in the world can submit a photograph to us. We'll work with you for 15 days, and then you judge how you feel. You are the body of evidence.
And the spreader of the word, as it were,
Yeah.
too, right? And so there's only one machine.
I have about 50 machines.
Okay.
Yeah. I have many backups. I know where you're going with this. I'm ready to take on the world, and nobody's going to abscond, steal my machines.
Yeah, that's good. And is this something that you're teaching other people to do, or the machines to sell? What method are you looking at as far as spreading this around?
I'm not going to manufacture. What I'm looking eventually is to have some type of university setting, a central point where people can come in to learn. Now, there's one gigantic drawback. Two. It takes a lot of time to learn this science, and there's no money in it.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be commercialized. There is
Right.
no industry. So I don't know who wants to spend years and study without remuneration. So that's the drawback right now.
Yeah.
But we'll have to overcome that in the next 10 years or so. It's not going to happen tomorrow.
I could see it being a student project.
Yes,
You know.
it is a student project, but you can't pay your mortgage with this. So keep
Right.
that in mind.
At least not yet.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet. We're still in the nascent state.
Yeah.
But you're right. I'm not a manufacturer. I don't want to manufacture. There's too many responsibilities to manufacture these instruments. I have to introduce it on a grassroots level. The next few years, if people take this up and they listen to what I have to say, that's all I could ask for.
Yeah. And I've heard something, and I'm not 100% clear. I think it has something to do with a torus. It's a torsion field or something of that nature.
Yeah. That's what the Russians call it, torsion energy. Yeah.
What exactly is that versus this? Is that a gravitational field?
You can use a toroid, which is quasi Tesla coil. And you still can, it's, if you will, implosive energy. Implosive. This is what I've noticed about scalar energy. It's a vortex.
Yeah.
And you can abet that vortex with a Tesla coil or with a toroid, okay, with a donut-shaped device.
Right.
And the key is to develop that double helix, that vortex, and the vortex is always implosive. So the energy focuses in.
So the energy focuses in and generates more.
Yes.
More
it
ambient
doesn't
energy.
dissipate, it focuses in and it grows. It's sort of like, if you've ever wondered why a tornado is so strong, it's driven by scalar energy. That's your scalar wave. That rotating mass of air is driven by scalar energy. Scalar energy powers tornadoes. That's why they're so strong.
Interesting. Okay. And so that is it's a force that affects gravity then.
Yes.
Not so much that it's a gravity effect, but that it affects the gravity around it.
Yes. Scalar energy is the cause of gravity. There was a great Russian scientist, Grebenikov, and he developed anti-gravity platforms that would hover. And he did it by manipulating scalar energy. So scalar energy controls gravity. And he could hover and he could move about at hundreds of miles per hour without any G forces because he was in a scalar energy environment, and scalar energy negated gravity.
Interesting. Within that sphere.
Yeah, exactly. Within that local environment. Exactly.
So it sounds a little bit like what they were trying to do with the Philadelphia experiment to disappear in radar, but they ended up creating some kind of pocket.
Yes. Yeah.
If it's true.
Yeah. I agree. It was a failed experiment. That was a scalar energy experiment, and they did teleport, apparently from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, down to Virginia, down to Roanoke. But it failed. And the reason it failed is at the very end, the ship and the sailors on the ship were spirit-like. They were no longer physical. They were non-physical. In this dimension of scalar energy, you lose your molecular rigidity. Right. And the sailors in the ship became non-physical, and they could start to merge into one another.
Yeah.
And the report is, after the experiment, the sailors and the ship were fused together.
Yeah.
There were sailors who were embedded in the hull of the ship.
Right.
So during the experiment, the scalar energy environment was so strong that the sailors could walk through the wall of the ship. It lost its physical rigidity. That you could interpenetrate matter. After the experiment, and you went back to the electromagnetic paradigm, some of the sailors were fused into the ship.
And others were crazy, from what I understand. And this could be because there wasn't a protective barrier between themselves and the external energies that were flowing around. Kind of a haphazard way to put it onto a oddly shaped ship and hope for the best.
The experiment failed. I mean, it proved that you could teleport, and they did, but the end results, if you can't control the energy, then what good is it? It's sort of like electricity. If I have electricity in my office and I can't control it, I'm going to burn down my office. Right. Well, the Philadelphia experiment showed how poorly we could control scalar energy. We had a lot of scalar energy on that battleship, and it turned out to teleport and beyond our control, and many of the sailors died because of that.
Yeah. I recently saw that the Navy came out with a lot of very interesting patents.
Oh.
And they seem to be patents revolving around the idea of some sort of field barrier and ship designs that are more space oriented. Is there a potential for scalar energy to have application in space?
Oh yeah.
And space travel and that sort of thing.
It's the only application.
Yeah.
If you have to rely upon fuel that burns, that's consumed. And if you have to rely upon the top speed you can ever travel is 186,000 miles per second, you're never going to make it to the edge of the galaxy. Right. When you go into the other dimension, scalar energy dimension. You're not bound by time or space. You and your spaceship become plasma or non-physical. And you can teleport from one end of the galaxy to another in an instant.
Yeah. And is it a teleport or is it a really fast movement?
No, I think it's a teleportation. I
Okay.
think you just change. You can bilocate, or you can just move it. Let's call it instantaneous velocity.
Yeah.
It's not point A to point B, because in a scalar energy environment there is no point A and point B. It's holographic.
Right.
No,
So it would be similar to that that concept that there's two different objects that are entangled,
yeah,
and you re-entangle with another object that you've maybe cross-correlated somehow,
yes,
something beyond our technology, at least as far as we know right now,
yeah,
to that other place, wherever it might be.
yes,
So associating and then dimensionally jumping.
yes.
Now, that does that still bind us within a universe, and or does that or does it rely on multiverse?
Now there's one universe, but there's two possibilities:
Hmm.
an electromagnetic possibility or a scalar possibility. And when you have a stronger scalar field, then you're no longer subject to time and space. When you're in that scalar energy environment, you're outside of time and space. The scientist who developed these anti-gravity platforms, his name is Viktor Grubenikov. When he was aloft in this anti-gravity force field, he had a wristwatch. The wristwatch did not observe time.
Hmm.
While he was in this anti-gravity force field, his wristwatch would never advance. It did not recognize time.
Wow.
He was outside of time.
Now, was he able to observe the the distance or the movement or the
Yeah,
change or
yeah,
the fluctuation of time, but not being
yeah.
um, forced to experience it in a
But
way that the watch wasn't experiencing it?
when he was aloft, and Viktor Grubenikov was on this flying platform, as he described, many times he was invisible to the naked eye because he
Mm-hmm.
was a plasma field. He was non-physical.
Right.
His wristwatch did not advance. He had no G forces because you're not in the Newtonian sphere. You're not in the Newtonian spectrum.
Right.
There is no gravity in an anti-gravity force field. On top of that, he mentioned that he had this incredible ability to accelerate and deaccelerate without any G forces. So while he was in that, let's call that local environment, that was just peculiar to him.
Mm.
Whereas the others around him were still in an electromagnetic environment and time would advance for them. Time did not advance for Grebennikov when he was on this anti-gravity platform, meaning
Mm.
he was outside of time and space.
Yeah. That's wild. I'll have to look into that. I haven't heard of that one.
It's just
Um,
fascinating. Once you understand these masters of scalar energy and you study them, you realize this is valid. There's two
yeah.
energy dimensions.
Yeah. No, I definitely I'm definitely on the idea of that. That there's multiple layers. I asked about the multiverse because I'm not a believer in it, and that goes against a lot of people's current theories and concepts. But I don't understand it, so I have to be able to connect the dots. And multiverse steps out of the realm of a single finite and infinite, bipolar type of existence. So
I,
universe works for me because I can see an infinite space and a finite space within that universe without having to have
yeah.
crazy zillion beyond zillion infinite worlds where I'm doing something else somewhere else. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Time travel, I have a lot of trouble with backwards, but forwards I can completely conceptualize. Just the backwards part also messes with me because I feel like it's not an option. That the only option is infinite possibilities in the future. But the idea of going backwards, that I don't quite understand it. Is that, does scalar energy have a means of time travel, that would be
Yes.
forwards and backwards.
It's very simple. Scalar energy is a double helix. It's a phi dimension. You could incorporate the phi 1.618 in the scalar wave. When you rotate scalar energy in one direction, time moves forward. Reverse the rotation, time moves back. When you're in a perfect scalar energy force field and you're not subject to that rotation, like Grebennikov, time stands still. So forward, backwards in time, or you stand still in time.
Yeah, yeah. I have to dwell on the backwards part. I can see standing still, and I can see infinite forwards.
Yeah.
And in distance, all of that I can see being easily worked out in my brain. But the backward part messes with me because it starts to go into that multiverse idea of two different timelines, and that's where I get a little off. I don't really understand it. So I'm definitely a universal mindset kind of person. But scalar energy would work within multiple dimensions, multiple universes.
Yes.
It would work basically anywhere because it's that source code.
Yes. Perfect
Yeah.
intelligence. There is no boundary for scalar energy.
Right.
By the way, if scalar energy is everywhere, and it is, that means the universe has to be everywhere at any time. So scalar energy is the only energy, the only model that can explain an infinite universe. If you have an infinite universe, you need an infinite model,
Hmm.
which is, or an infinite energy, or an infinite intelligence, which is scalar energy.
Yeah. That's great. And again, what was the website?
Scalarlight.com. Available
Scalarlight.com.
for the 15-day session, scalarlight.com.
Okay, a 15-day session.
Yep.
And are you on this different social media platforms?
Yeah, if you visit the website at the very bottom, we'll have our social media sites. And the important thing is to just try the sessions. That's why we give away. Anybody in the world can try the 15 days. This is how you test the water before you jump into the pool.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you being here today. It's a great conversation.
Thank you, Nick. You have a profound understanding of this. Thank you.
Well, I'm working on it.
You do. Good for you.
No, thank you, sir. And I hope that a lot of people go and check out and take that 15-day free session and become the proof that that you're looking for,
Yeah.
or that they're looking for, perhaps.
Yep. Proof is in the pudding. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
Take care.